Welcome to To Mic, produced by Mars Studios. I'm your host, Rumez Ahmed, and today our guest is Mr. Jackson from Aviation High School. He is a principal, a former U.S. history teacher, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us seen you on the news and stuff. Yeah, tell me a bit more about yourself, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Like you said, I am the principal of Aviation High School. My name is Stephen Jackson. I'm in my 24th year at Aviation High School. I started here as a social studies teacher. So I taught global and US and mostly the junior classes, the advanced placement United States history class. Then I was in programming at the same time. Then I was assistant principal of organization and security, like Mr. Brown is now. And I became principal about 8 years ago. So I'm in my 8th year as principal when this school year is over. And it's been a wonderful experience and a wonderful ride. And it's great working with students like you.
Nice. So you said, so to kind of contract, right? How does that transition from being a teacher, from entering the high school, working as a normal social studies teacher, and then you went to a U.S. history teacher as an AP teacher, and then after that you went to an AP level, assistant principal, and now you're the principal. How was that progression? How did it feel?
Um, it's challenging, I think, for anybody to go from one position to the next, and especially in the school system with a lot of responsibilities. But I was very fortunate that in my programming work, that's like Mr. Weinberg right now and Ms. Kim, that I worked closely with the principal at the time, Mrs. Taylor, the administrators at that time, like in this very room, as we do now, and other assistant principals and coordinators and teachers and things. So I got a variety of experiences that went beyond the classroom of teaching history, which I think helped to give me a sense. I mean, obviously you go to school too to get your license to be an administrator, but also as I became an assistant principal, I also got mentored by the principal at that time, which was Mr. Columbus. That's how the whole transition took place. And I worked closely with him as his assistant principal of organization, which is like Mr. Brown now, where you do the facilities and basically do most of the operations side of the house, not the instructional part as much, that the principal needs you to do with everything from budgeting to staffing and that kind of stuff. So that gave me a lot of variety of experiences. And I've known everyone here since I started, like I said, so we've all kind of grown up together. And that's helped me along the way to have a very good sense of how this school works and what we do as a community. Not being an aviation maintenance technician, obviously, as a background, could be one challenge, but being here for so long, I've learned a lot from fellow teachers at the time and people over the years and assistant principals and people in industry. So that's helped a lot as well on that side of the house because it's a unique school.
Yeah, definitely.
That's different than, pretty much any other high school where you're both a New York City public school and
you're dealing with
FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, Part 147 Aviation Maintenance Technician School. So we have a lot of great people, and this is the 88th year of the school. So it's the staff, the students like yourself, the families, the alumni, they're super dedicated. So getting to know everyone all these years really helps give you a sense of what the school, what it's like and how to hopefully be a successful administrator and principal in the school.
So how much has your connection building, right? Building up connections throughout your years. As you said, you were here. You grew up with all the staff members in the school right now as a family member. How did that feel? Like, going from, oh, I'm your fellow coworker who's at the same level, and then now I'm the person who's leading you.
Yeah,
How,
it's hard. It's really good and it's hard at the same time. Meaning, yeah, one day you're a colleague and coworker, and one day you are also a supervisor, and supervisor comes with a lot of different responsibilities too. So that all the great things you share in together, and also things that sometimes you have to handle as well, like lateness or things like that create some tension sometimes when we all know each other for so long. So I think that's normal in any organization. I think in an organization like ours, it is another dynamic that you learn to work through and hopefully handle well as you gain more experiences and work through different systems and have a good team to support you as well.
okay, so So this school especially is pretty unique, as you know we have the aviation mechanics center,
Hmm.
the side of it, and then we also have the normal academics side of it. So coming in as a teacher who's fresh off like the college or something, and you just enter the school workforce and you see the school with like having all these different programs, how did that made you feel?
Oh, great. I mean, just like everyone else, I think, I'm very proud of the school. We all love the school. We're super dedicated to it. And the huge reason is it's a unique place because of the high level of training, expectation, dedication. Like all your teachers, all your classmates and former students, graduates that are
Yeah.
before you, it's really, really are integral part of this whole process. And that's what makes this place work so well is that we have decades of technicians coming through here, that the industry is full of aviation high school graduates and unrelated fields too, right? So there's people that go into aviation law, air traffic control, and then a whole range of military and non-aviation related things that feed back into our school as a community, which helps us continue to move forward and have a focus and a mission that the staff and everyone believe in dearly, that I think makes sure that we are successful year after year, because we have a very successful program, I'm happy to say, based on all parts of our school community. So I think I got a little bit off topic on your question, but the main idea being, as principal, as member of the community, as someone been here a long time, that's what makes, as a one portion of what makes this place very unique, is that it's a unique program by itself. It's high level training and licensing that pretty much the rest of the country does at the college level or private school, technical school level. Um, and then you also have the factor that the very people that you're getting taught by right now are also in industry, and we're going to be, your colleagues when you graduate and go into the field. And there's a whole network of people out there that, really care greatly about the school and everyone that's here. We just had a graduate from 99 come by today talking about his teachers and ran into some of the people that he had here when he was back in the 90s. And that helps us all become more
So
unified and aligned to what our mission is as a school community.
so you see the school as a value creation tool. Basically,
Yeah.
it creates value out there, puts it out. A lot of people come here, experience the greatness. I know, as a
Well,
person, as a student who myself, I definitely could agree with this, with your statements. As like the school itself is pretty like, it's pretty one of the greatest schools. I think like it's one of the best choices I made in my life, where you have your normal academics, right? So you learn everything that you need to learn. But also on the side, like even if you don't want to be the aircraft mechanic, you do get the license, or you at least get the opportunity to get the license, meaning you have a shot at like a different job if you don't
yep.
end up in the same job that you want. So like that's definitely like something that is definitely like something nice.
Yeah, I would say, to kind of summarize a lot of what we're both saying, is we all take a lot of great pride in the school. I think you do as well. That's why we're
Yeah.
doing this, right? I feel honored that you're asking me these questions as principal of the school. Um, and we are very fortunate to be one of many good schools in the city. But again, what makes us different is you leave with a really valuable skill set. You leave, if you earn your licenses, you actually leave with valuable licenses, or the physical
Yeah.
FAA license you're going to carry with you as you go into the field. And as you said, whether you go into the field or a whole range of other places, the school opens many, many doors, both in the aviation field and without, that I think makes it super unique on top of all the things we said, because of the training you get, the exposure you get. Like you saw, before the vacation, we had the vice president of American Airlines here talking to students, and it's not something easy for schools to get someone at that level of a corporation like American Airlines to come in, right? So we have this very structured, very dedicated, and supportive school and community and system that really, I think, is there for you, me, and your classmates and our colleagues to really have the best experience we can provide in this very,
It's very
public school challenging system that has
yeah.
1,800 schools, and every school is different, and there's always expectations from city, state, and federal. But I think I know we do a wonderful job as a school community handling that, and hope you see that as a student. I hope your classmates do too.
So my next question would be like, you said that, as you said, we had the VP of American Airlines, and like pretty prominent people of such come to our school, right? And as a normal principal, I am pretty sure, guaranteed that you don't need to necessarily deal with those people that come to your school, and that's like maybe like once in a while, occasionally. And also, you have been in like you were in the news for with the you were in the news with Joby Airlines
Mm-hmm.
for Joby, sorry, not Joby Airlines, Joby, for the mayor's announcement for the helipads.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
So
electrification of the JRB heliport down by Lower Manhattan.
yeah, so like okay, so doing all this as a high school level DOE, Department of Education, public school principal, not college, not anything. How does that feel? Because usually, normally, you get to meet these peoples if you're like the principal of like a college, like the professor, like a college level kind of thing. So how does it feel?
Feels great to be able to get access to people like that and companies like that. So Joby is a good example. They're one of many now eVTOL companies that are looking to do air taxi service from like the heliport in Lower Manhattan to JFK, for example. And well, this is a good example. They came to us because they know about our school, and it's been around for 88 years, and the technicians across the tri-state area are mostly from our school, and they know the reputation, and they wanted to make sure they were able to connect with us because they're trying to build their reputation and their future. And that's a really cool feeling to have, is that we have a school that they sought out to make a connection with, so that as they become a more viable company and provide this service in the very near future, that they get to get some of our input and get to showcase what they do to you guys and to us as well, because we need to learn about this. But also, we're going to start working more closely together going forward, as they need technicians and who knows what else, managers, pilots, the other experiences that we hope we can provide our students that can fill these positions of the near future. And that's just one example. So I think your real question is like, as a high school principal working with companies and politicians like that, yeah, it's a cool feeling. But I do want to say very, very emphatically, for a lot of the questions you've asked me so far, I know you're asking me, and I'm the one sitting here, but I'm fully conscious that this is not me
Just
alone.
like
This is all of us.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, there's no way that this is Steven Jackson doing all this, and this is why it happened. That's not the case whatsoever. We have a really pick up a lot in that head, that microphone. But I agree with that emphatic. Yeah, we have people in this building, and I say people, teachers, of course, administrators, of course, counselors, but school safety agents, kitchen staff, that really care greatly about your well-being as a student here, our well-being as people that work here. And that's, again, what I think really comes across. I'll never forget the current chancellor, Chancellor Banks, came in, for the Joby event last December, right? 2 Decembers ago now, 2022.
That was when I was a sophomore.
Yeah, right. In the first, we had the simulators in the hangar. Joby was here all week. So I'll never forget when Chancellor Banks was here in December of 2022, first time here. And like one of the first things he says in the hallway is like, "What is this place? It just feels like," and he's what he was trying to say was he feels a different sense and a different community and a different community, I think is the best word. Different community and experience of the people here that you don't normally feel when you walk into a building.
Yeah.
I know we have our squabbles and we have our concerns, and you have your complaints about each one of us.
That's definitely true.
But there's everyone everywhere on the planet, right? But we all do come together and do what's best. Because again, I think we all care greatly about our school, our mission, what we do. We're very proud of what we do. And again, I brought this up because I know I'm the principal, the face, the leader of the school, but it's not me alone. This is not something that I did. This is something that we're all a part of, and we all make possible by all the decisions actions, the things that we do each and every day that make this place successful.
So
And I think parents and students and community members, and I hope the industry and everyone else and the politicians you see, Joby's example of them coming to us, they see that. And that's what I think is really what's wonderful about our community. And I hope you feel that way, and hope your classmates and your parents feel that way.
So to add on to that, I think like the strength of a leader is based on the people who follow him and based on the people who help him out, and it's not really his own strength, where
Or she.
one man, he or she, but like I'm kind of quoting on this, but the one person cannot do everything on that person's own, where it's impossible, because even with this podcast, or like anything that I have seen in my life, but like outside of the school organization, there is nothing, there is no other, there's no program that has one man doing everything, and it's impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like pretty impossible. Even starting off like a company, or like maybe for example like starting off a new program, even for example, let's say like a club in the school, you need at least 3 people or 4 people to join you to do the program. You can't just do only you.
Yeah, you're right.
So like what are your thoughts on, since like aviation, right, the industry itself is ever changing. It's not like, so we moved from, for example, we had aluminum bodies, right, fuselages, and then now we're moving on to composite, and then after there's this idea that there might be, with Joby coming along, there might be electric
Propulsion.
propulsion and everything, and then another idea that they have is this new engine where there's no cowling for it. Now that's also coming around. So how do you deal with the ever changing, like you said that this school has been for 88 years, so how does that change, how do you counteract that change?
Well, counteract, I don't know if it's counteract, but so
like keep stable with it, like
yeah, or try our best to evolve at a good pace. And I say it that way on purpose because before I go any further, I'm very fortunate to have Mr. Caramaccio, Mr. Sosa, that are the leaders of the aviation maintenance department. I'm also very fortunate to have about 45 plus aviation maintenance teachers that also work in the field. So they have a wealth of experience and knowledge, and most of them were in the very seat that you were.
Yeah.
So again, it's I'm not answering this from I did this or I did that, because I'm not an aviation maintenance technician, right?
Yeah.
And I can speak to it. I never have ever have done that level of work, any of that work, right? So with that being said, it's again a big team. It's half the building is aviation maintenance that has a lot of thoughts and opinions and beliefs and experience with these things that lead to our evolution on ideas about the future. But you have to always keep in mind, and it's gotten a little bit more flexible, but we have to always follow what the regulations are for what's called a CFR Part 147 Aviation Maintenance Technician School. That is the federal, those are the federal guidelines, rules, regulations those are the federal regulations that we have to follow to certify you, that we've provided you with a training that meets the level that the FAA wants. So we can't go out of the box too far if it's not something in the regs. So we can't like say, we're not going to do, I don't know, carburetor, float type carburetors and opposed engine and propellers and things that you might not really do at all when you get to like JetBlue or Delta or other American Airlines and United and so on. But we have to do these things because it's in the regulations and for the curriculum for the Part 147.
It's part of the ACS codes.
Right. So now ACS changed and they made it a little bit more flexible, but there's still requirements that take time. So you still have high school students doing all their academics and phys ed and arts and language and lunch and then aviation maintenance courses. So my point is it's not something you easily quickly change, but I think we've done a great job staying ahead of the curve. I mean, I know we don't always feel that way because we live here in this place that we spend all of our minutes in, but other schools that come to see me and talk to our students and our staff, they're always amazed, like, wait, you do this? We don't do that. Like, I'm talking about other Part 147 schools. Oh, you have this much stuff? We don't have that. Like, and I hear that all the time. So what am I trying to
Wait,
say?
so you mean the Part 147 schools themselves, like, as in, like, for example, like
Well, the
Winston
level of
Tech or.
equipment, the level of supplies, the level of, what we do. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, no, like, yeah. So, like, they are amazed by how much Aviation High School has the equipment and how developed they are.
yep, like
That's actually
the
surprising.
composite. See, that's what's sad here. I know. We have this internal criticism that we always put a lot of weight on our shoulders to overcome. But like the composite skin on the aileron,
The
Mr.
ailerons, yeah.
Catamaccio was a big proponent of making sure we had composite work, and he's not the only one. A lot of people are talking about composite, especially now. And you said Joby, because Joby's
Yeah.
all composite. But that we made that change way before other places did, and a lot of schools do that because of what they've seen here. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people that
A
have
lot
come
of
by,
people.
like, oh, that's a great idea. So that's an example. But we're making changes and we're making modifications to do as many things we can realistically. And I mean that with a lot of limitations, time being one factor. But as many things we can to provide our industry partners in this area with technicians that they feel comfortable hiring, they feel are prepared, they have the right attitude. And I'm saying that in a certain way because the curriculum doesn't necessarily match to what commercial airlines need. Remember, you're talking about a curriculum for the country that is meant to give you the training to get hired by JetBlue, and they train you on their aircraft type.
Yeah.
It's also meant to train you so you can work in the middle of North Dakota in a small airfield working on Cessnas and small
Pipers,
aircraft in general.
general aviation.
Right. That, you might be doing every single thing yourself, right? So that's what's challenging about having guidelines or regulations is a better word, where you have to
Abide by all of it and follow it just since it.
right abide by it, but also you're training it for that reason. You train people for that reason where you don't know what type of job they're going to get. It's not like it's regional regulations. Like, all right, you're in the New York City area, so your students are going to work at JFK, LaGuardia, Newark. Therefore, the training must look like this, right?
Yeah.
And then you live in Kansas and you're going to do manufacturing or you're going to do general aviation. Like it doesn't work that way. It gives you the grounding. And look, you're definitely not getting trained on 737 or A320 in a way where you start tomorrow and you're like an expert. There's no way, right? You're talking about older equipment and airplanes and different things that you're not going to see when you go to the JFK hangars and maintenance facilities and so on. But to give you the skill set to get in the door, to get the training, additional training that's required by these companies, and they have to train you regardless. That's what the name of our game, I think, is how do we evolve in a way that we're allowed to do? How do we evolve in a way that the industry wants to see? Which I know I'm giving you a long answer, and I told you as a history teacher I talk too much, but it all ties together with a lot of the questions you've asked me, is that we also don't forget the industry partners, American Airlines, Delta, JetBlue, United. A lot of these people are our graduates, including the very managers and administrative people too. In some cases, they are part of our school community, and I mean that literally. Where we have an advisory board, and they provide us input on what they see, what they want, how they feel things are going. And just to kind of go on one more tangent, I hope I'm answering this question well, but that give you another example is now we're at a place because the technician job market is just wide open to you guys, and the airlines need so many technicians. And I'm not saying that they weren't supported before, or the companies have been amazing supporters of our school, but yeah, there's even more alignment where JetBlue is going to do some what they call general excuse me. JetBlue is going to do provide during January Regents Week general familiarization training for some of our students and staff. So that means the actual training they do for their aircraft type in their company. American Airlines is going to do the same thing for 737 for about 40 people. So it's an amazing start. We want to see more of that, where our students get even more experiences, just like the internships, where our students get work alongside technicians at JFK and LaGuardia. That's been expanded on. We hope to see that continue to expand as other companies come on board. Again, it's not easy. That's people don't realize. Yes, in schools like ours that are called CTE schools, in schools like ours that are considered CTE schools, career and technical education schools, you have internships. And there's a great many internships across New York City. You can go to Pep Boys, you can go to CVS, you can go to whatever it may be, right, to get that kind of work experience. But we have a unique situation where some of our students get access to internships on airport, right, with the Port Authority badge, and they get to watch what actually goes on and works, alongside a technician that's doing the work. So that's hard, right? You have to be 18, you have to get vetted, you have to be right for that type of position.
And I believe you need your driving license too.
Yeah, well,
that's another
to work on the airport, they want your driver's license because you're going to be driving equipment and things when you get hired. So it's the same idea, right? So that's expanding, but it's never going to be, I love to say 500 people can do it. And it's not realistic. Companies can't take that kind of liability on. But the fact that they do it and they provide that opportunity for our students is amazing. Like, colleges don't get that in a lot of cases. So I know I gave you a long answer for a question that was about our evolution and how we can stay on top of things, but that's how we do it. And it does tie back into us all being from the same place and all caring and about the same place, is that we have this like feedback loop in a lot of ways informally. And I tell people that too. It's like, you'd expect us to have a certain day where you meet with a certain manager and you do this. That has happened and it will continue to happen, but it's more of, we need more people. What do you recommend? I'm going to come in this day. Let me talk to some classes because, hey, you're Mr. X. You were just graduated 10 years ago. It's good to see you back. So there's like that closeness,
the family kind of relationship,
familiarity that makes that another unique feature of our school.
So to connect back on that, right? I think like when it comes to the AMP license, which is the airframe and power plant license, my friend, right? Me and my friend were talking about it. He said that it's more so about training. So it's like a license that tells you, oh, you could go ahead and train.
Yeah, that's another way to say it. So again, you're not going to
be an expert at everything you do, because obviously no school or no even the FAA curriculum, even if you go everything by the FAA curriculum, you are not going to come close to anything that you are going to do at JetBlue. You're not going to come close to, because as you said, American Airlines, JetBlue, Delta, they have their own sort of curriculum that they follow, because so the person who works at Delta, he talked to me, right? He said that he has, not just him, but everyone, they have yearly trainings.
They have to.
They have yearly trainings every year. They have to do the certifications, new certifications every time. So a new aircraft comes out, you had to do it. Any equipment comes out. And most of the airlines, they're transferring from manual logbook, which is like writing, to
digital
iPad. Yeah. So that's definitely like evolving. So the people who are there, they are like, let's keep doing it. And also like another thing is like the family aspect of Aviation High School. Mr. Keller, I think Mr. Keller is a good example when it comes to the family aspect of it, because he was here even before this building existed.
Yeah, he started in Manhattan.
And yeah, he graduated from here in 1960s, I believe. I'm not sure.
I always forget, 60 or 61. Huh?
60 or 61. And he went into the industry, military, everything, and then now he's here.
Engineer,
and
pilot.
Now he pilot. I don't think that man has not done nothing that I can. Okay, but yeah, he's something.
But I hope he gets to see you say that.
But Mr. Keller is like a good example in like how, and then he came back to the school to teach, and he's still teaching to this day in the school. And I asked him why he wants to teach, right? He's like, just wants to teach. That's it. He doesn't even need a reason for it. He's like, this man gets like 3 different incomes coming in, and 3 different or multiple incomes coming in for him, because obviously he's a veteran and he also worked at Grumman. So, he has the pension money coming in from that. But obviously he doesn't need to be working, but he still works because he likes the aviation industry and aviation itself.
He's a great example to follow. Yep. I agree.
And I believe there was this person who was not recently, I think after COVID, actually, wasn't he said it was his 70th year in Airlines, and they gave him
Oh yes, Mr. Blackman, Al
yep.
Blackman. Yep,
I don't know. Tell me a bit
he
more.
graduated. I don't really know him too well. I met him when he was here. I think that was before the pandemic. He's now. I don't remember if he's still working at American Airlines. I think it's who you're talking about, right?
Yeah, he because he was like the longest working.
Yeah, now it's like 85 years, I want to say, or 80 years.
I'm not sure.
80 or 85 years. When he was here, it was celebrating, well, it was part of the Pegasus Society ceremony at the end of the year. And no, I'm mistaken. He was here, I think, for the FAA assembly. Um, and he has been like the longest, as far as I know, longest serving technician. I'm not sure if he's still working today, but it's
But he
over
was,
80
yeah.
years. And he
And they
graduated in like 41 or 42. And it was funny when he came in and I met him and I was talking to him, he started referencing the first principal. So it was what? I'm the seventh principal, I think, over the 88 years. And the first principal was Elliot Nasca. I was like, wait, you were here with Mr. Nasca? I never thought about that before. Like, you know, it's one thing to like say Mr. Grant in the 80s, 70s,
his name was like
80s.
Gallagher, but like times two.
Like he's talking about the 30s and 40s and like, wow, I never thought about that. Right. You graduated in the 40s. And it was just cool to talk to him about like that kind of, it was very different. The school was in Manhattan. It was small. It was evolving with the whole industry. It's pre-FAA by decades, right?
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, right. But he's also revered and loved in American Airlines. There's a big mural they have.
Yeah, I think they
the
have a
hangar.
whole plane too.
A plane is dedicated to him. He's a cool example too. His name's on our Charles Taylor board. Charles Taylor is it was the Wright brothers mechanic technician. So in the FAA world, of the technician world, they at 50 years of service, you can be awarded the Charles Taylor Award, and Mr. Blackman was awarded that award years ago because he's been way beyond 50 years. But it's a recognition for people that have been in the industry long. But I want to come back to something you said in that whole thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
How what we do, like I was saying, is one aspect of the training, and to be, would you say, trained to become trained, or to constantly learn how to do this work?
So it's like you come into the high school, right? I want to talk about different stuff too, but you come into the high school, you get the license, and it's like training, right? But it's not really. It's just a training for you to get a license, which tells you that you could go ahead and actually work on real planes and get more training.
It's a fair point. And again, I want to fully acknowledge I'm saying these things not as a technician, someone without their airframe power plant, but knowing a lot from over the years of being part of this world. Yeah, so it's kind of the similar process you see, right? You have to have certain attendance rules. You have to have FA record. You have to get a 70 or better in the course in the final. That's all required for our quality of our program to meet the standards. Well, guess what? You get your certificate of completion. You finish our educational program in the aviation maintenance side. Then you take the FAA written exam. Then you take the oral and practical exam.
And then you go for your temporary license, and then permanent.
Then you get hired, and what happens? The company has to have their own manual of operations, their safety procedures, their training process. So why do they train you every year? Because, well, hey, I hope they do, because we're all flying on these planes, as we go to our vacations and business trips and so on. But the people that fix and maintain them, and that's just one aspect, but they need to be trained regularly because that's the requirement of the company, but also because the FAA wants to make sure there's a process to make sure everyone's current. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, on another example, mechanics, auto mechanics, let's say, don't have that same level of need, right? So when you go into your work in senior year, before you do the work, what do you do? What do you have to do before you actually start the physical work?
You have to go through your prerequisites, which is like your general.
But you're in a class and you're going to work on, you're an airframe right now, right? Yeah. So you're going to work on landing gear. Do you go right to fix the hydraulic line? What do you do first?
No, you have to get all your equipment, safety, make sure that everything is proper, and then you have to wear your coveralls. Make sure that you have your job sheets, so you know what you're doing.
Well, how do you know what you're doing? That's the question. Just because you know?
No, so because sometimes, not sometimes, but like the teacher gives you the manual. She tells you which one is what you need to do. So job sheet itself, like the job. Let's start from the beginning, all right?
Yep.
So you have the job sheet, which is something the teacher gives you, right? And then the job sheet sometimes mentions what manual you should use for this specific job, for example, let's say changing the landing gear, which is like a common job done in the aviation industry. But so they tell you, oh, this is what you need to do. This is the plain manual. This is the exact page that you need to go to. And then after that, you read the manual, you find the tool, you read it, get all the safety precautions straight out. And then after that, all the tools. And after all the tools are gathered and making sure that you're safe and everything, then you go ahead with the job. And then after that, after getting the job done, you need to record it, as in like write it down, logbook, and then get the job sheet signed off. So yeah, it's a whole process.
So you're saying it right there, right? So we mirror the industry, right? That these things are not like unique to us. We're trying to follow what the industry does. Yes, now it's digitized or in the process of being digitized. But like you said, you have to go to the manual, advisory directives. You got to make sure you're following all the things that need to be done according to the manufacturer or what the FAA says has to be followed, right? Cars and other land-based equipment in some case, but they're not the same level of intensity of that process, right? Because again, we're going to get in an airplane 30,000 feet into the sky and make sure that that's safe, that we all can get to our destination in a safe way. So these steps and procedures are built in here as an educational program. They're built into the airlines because, again, the same reason. And it's going to keep repeating itself no matter how long you do this. Like Mr. Blackman's got to go to training every year because that's required to make sure that everyone knows the current standards, the current manufacturer updates, the current technology, the new safety guidelines that may have come out because of some kind of inspection or hopefully not, but some kind of accident, right? So that's why when you're talking about being trained in your next stage, yeah, you're going to constantly get trained, and the license opens that job market to you, but you're not going to stop and all of a sudden do the same thing you did on day one, on day two, and day 222. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You know what I'm trying to say? That's what I think the person you spoke to at Delta is trying to tell you. Like, you're constantly going to learn, constantly be trained, and constantly go through training and
make
courses.
Sure that you learn everything.
Yep.
And also, like, there's this one common misunderstanding about the school, right? I think we should kind of address that too, because so even me personally, when I applied for the school, it's like Aviation High School. Oh, you learn how to be a pilot.
I know. We heard that for 88 years.
Pilot. Like, I don't think that the one problem I see is that I didn't know that aviation mechanic was even a job before I came to the school. I think that's something that anyone who's not in the aviation industry or does not know anyone who is in the aviation industry does not know.
That's a fair point.
That's a fair point. But one thing that they do know commonly is aircraft pilot. And they're like, when they say aviation and like, oh, this is school. Like I mentioned, I go to Aviation High School. Oh, you learn how to fly. Like, I don't know.
I know.
But like, how do you contract that sometimes? Like, how do you like respond to that sometimes?
Well,
you get that.
I don't know if I have a great answer for you because you're still saying it today when we've heard this for a long, long time. And if you ask graduates from the 90s and 80s, like, yeah, I thought the same thing when I started. Look, especially now, I will say online resources, hopefully, if people do a lot of research, which a lot of parents do, we're making that more clear. I'm not saying it wasn't clear before, but I think
they more emphasis.
Like you said, you hear the word aviation, you think of pilot. You don't always think of all the other aspects of the career fields in aviation. But we go to these schools, we do the open houses, we have our staff live here doing the work with the students as parents come in and check it out. We even to the extent of, we did that cartoon recently where it's more geared to elementary and middle school students. It shows hopefully that they get a sense of what technician work is. But yeah, it's hard. It's challenging because you're talking about thousands of people thousands and thousands of students looking for a high school. Not everyone does the same level of research. Like you said, I think the people that get it best are those that are siblings or children of graduates. Like, they understand better because their parents or aunt or uncle or their brother or sister can explain it. But we do explain a lot of it here if you come to the open house, if we go to your school. But even that, I'll tell you, anecdotal meaning it's not like something you can extrapolate as the fact across all schools. But I remember going to a middle school. We had the tools and the different simulated jobs for the middle school students, and our staff did a whole presentation. The students ran out all excited. I watch them in the hallway, point to friends down the hallway and say, hey, come to this room. They teach you how to be a pilot. I'm like, you just were here for like 20 minutes to learn about our school. So it's hard in that sense. It's like I said, I think it's a default thought of a young kid that plane means I fly it. So I hope we do a great job once you get here of understanding it better. A pilot is still something you can go on to become. Right. We don't train you to do that, but a lot of our graduates do that because, again, I think, we want you to be a technician because the industry needs technicians for sure, and that's what we're created for. But the school opens a whole world of aviation-related jobs. As I said, we have graduates that are traffic controllers, aviation lawyers, pilots, of course. Now you got drones, have drones, and that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I'm fully answering your question. We're trying every which way to educate
and change
the middle school applicants. I will say the great thing is we have 4,000 plus applicants. There's a wait list that's like over 1,000 people, which I don't like to highlight that too much because we don't really go to the wait list because we overfill from the start. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, I guess. But the point is the interest is there. Yes, pilot, I think, is the first thought most people have. I mean, it's ironic that the door handle keeps moving over there because the flight club is trying to come in here to meet. So we do a flight club, but it's not officially part of our training program. It's an additional piece.
It's a club.
We did pick up simulators, which we're working through how we're going to enhance our program. When I say simulators, I mean flight simulators. But I don't want to reduce aviation maintenance in the name of being a pilot. But we do want to add more opportunities on top of being a technician as well. But yeah, now, again, I digress because now I'm going into more of the future ideas of what we try to look at.
But to kind of like go back on that point, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm trying to ask her now. What's your outlook? Not just in school, but like in as your personal goals too. What are some outlooks you have? So like, let me give you for example. Right now for me as a personal goal, I want to get the licenses.
Good. And I hope so.
And like as
you're a very dedicated student.
Yeah.
Like many of your classmates.
And like other ways around is like another outlook that I have is like getting this podcast on a different level, you know? So like I have
that's a good point.
So like I have my personal goals, and then I have like school-based goals. So like for yours is like, what are some personal goals outside maybe, and then also like school-based goals or work-based goals that you have?
Oh boy, you want to know personal stuff?
I mean, not really. You don't have to take that deeper. You know?
Joking, you know me. I mean, to not get into too personal, but personal goals, of course, is to have a good home life. My wife and I have a great life together and relationship, and my family is growing. I don't personally have kids, but my younger brother has 2 young kids now, and my older sister has 2 kids. So as our family grows, and as you get older, you'll see. Right now, you may not see it as much because you're going to now enter into a phase where you're more independent. But as you get older, it's great to have that bond and relationship with family, and we try to have a lot of good quality experiences. Like my wife and I, like, we're going to a show tonight. We always have like the theater and things. Like we always do dinner, and we always try and take advantage of this wonderful city we live in. We didn't touch upon it before when you were talking about like kind of touching upon my role as principal, but I stay here a long time, as you guys know, and into the night. I can do that because I live 4 blocks away. So that helps me to stay, but it also helps me to not lose quality time traveling somewhere. And that way my wife and I and my family get together, and my friends, and you have to have a good work-life balance, I guess is where I'm going with this, without getting into more specific things. So I'm trying to, as a personal goal, take care of myself, not let the stress of this kind of job take on too much of your life and lead to negative things, right? Because you can have health problems and things, and I try to stay fit and stay healthy. And that also includes, like I said, my relationship with my wife and my family, and making sure that we have fun experiences and quality experiences together too. We travel whenever we can, which is another nice bonus of working in a school system. We get structured time off. So that's where I kind of spend my personal focus, is when we have our own time, what kind of things can we do that are interesting to us that we enjoy.
So when you mean work-life balance, how do you deal with that?
I definitely think I have an advantage because of living so close. So like I leave here at 7:30, but yet I still get to the gym, and then I still do work when I get home. So it's hard because it's a lot of work. There's a lot of work as a principal and as a teacher, of course, as an administrator in general. We don't leave work at home here, when the bell rings and we're all done, and hey, I'm going to go home and do nothing. That's not real. Teachers have to lesson plan and grade, and so do administrators have their own things. We have reports and never-ending emails and messages, and you get my emails to you guys at night, right? And other types of reports we have to type up and things we have to follow up on. So that can be all-consuming, and I do think, and this is a whole other tangent, but I think it'll probably cause another question. I do think, no, I take it back. I am concerned for you, for me, your teachers, your friends, your classmates, your parents, your siblings. I don't mean to be so dramatic, but the pandemic pushed us online super fast. I know it existed before, but we're all on our phone constantly. We're all checking email, social media, who knows what, constantly. Nobody can walk down the hallway anymore without keeping their head up.
Yeah, I think
they say it the wrong way. They can't walk down the hallway without their head in their phone, and I think is causing us to have problems where we can't separate from that constant flow of information. Whether that information means more work, whether that information means more tangents where you kind of just, what do they call it, doom scrolling?
Yeah,
right?
doom scrolling.
So that's not a good thing. You need to have time to enjoy the moment, whether the moment means sitting in a chair watching a production of Broadway, whether it means sitting at dinner with friends, whether it means reading a book, or just kind of meditating, working out, yoga. If we don't stop on purpose and disconnect, that's detrimental to our health. Then we're not as good students. We're not as good technicians. We're not as good teachers. We're not as good principals, administrators.
So what's some
does that make sense where I'm going with that? Like that. So what my answer is in that vein of I do have a lot of work, and I do work 7 days a week and all around the clock pretty much, but I try to be very conscious of taking care of myself too. And I'm saying this on purpose so you guys know that. Disconnect, stop, do things you enjoy, like the podcast. That's awesome that you're taking time to do this. Now it's going to take you time to edit and do everything else, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have interests in things that take you off of this online world that we've all kind of got forced quickly into being all-consuming because of remote world of the height of the pandemic was all online. Your classes were online, communications were online, Zoom meetings are online. Like it just never ended, right? So I don't think we fully dialed that back.
So
does that make sense?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on a lot of the kids, right? You've been in the as a teacher itself, right? From a teacher's perspective to just in general as an adult, what's how did you what's the progression of technology coming into play with students' lives? What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously back in the 8 years ago, it's 7 years ago, definitely you said 7 years ago as a principal.
I'm in my 8th year.
Yeah, 8th year.
So 7 years, yeah.
And then you probably worked as a teacher for a long time. 2000, so that's 23 years now. 24.
Yeah, no, it's okay. What were you saying?
Yeah. So in that 24-year period, technology has definitely evolved, and how has it affected the student life? As a person who's viewing it from that perspective.
Let me give you the example of cell phones, right? So now, my niece and nephew were asking me this past weekend. Is your school have cell phones? So I don't remember the years. I was assistant principal 2009 on. So let's say, 2011. You weren't allowed to have cell phones, right? You could not bring them to school. Now, we have great students that are responsible? Were we a school that made you? That's right. There was a couple of years where schools had lockers, or if they had like the metal detectors, you couldn't bring a cell phone at all. So these entrepreneurs in these neighborhoods set up like these van like trucks where they had lockers in their van, and you as a student would pay $1, put your phone in the locker, pick and get it after school because you couldn't bring it to school with the metal detector. It'll be come up right on the screen. We didn't have that because we don't have that technology or the level of yeah, when you walk into the building kind of thing. Level of I'm trying to say, but anyway, so that's the height of like no cell phones, can't have them. Then it kind of became okay. Every school has to make a cell phone policy. What is the policy? For us, it was you can't have it out. Right? You definitely can't have it out. You got to put it away. If you have it out, we're going to take it. Your parent has to come in on Friday and pick it up from our dean's office or administrator, which is worked. It was hard, but it worked, and it was much more controlled than now. I think you fast forward through the pandemic, meaning during the pandemic and then afterwards now. Do we do those things? No. Do I wish we did? Yeah, I kind of do. I'm sure your teachers do too. Because the phones have just become too much part of our DNA almost. And that not just students, all of us, right? So pre-pandemic, there were stricter rules and process to hold on to phones and confiscate them. We still want that same outcome of not using them in class. And I do think we do a better job than most. And I think that's largely because, again, you have great teachers, but in addition to that, you guys are really pretty responsible. But it's become a huge challenge. It's not just here. It's a constant conversation of what do we do about the cell phone issue, right? And by the way, the company is going to say the same thing. If you're a technician on your cell phone, they're not going to be happy about that. They don't want to see that whatsoever. So we do more of an honor system now. And we do, remember, there are classes that let you use it, right? I know Delta Math is something you need to do, or you have to do something on Padlet. You might not pull out a laptop right away. So a phone could be helpful too. It doesn't have to all be some kind of like detrimental thing. So we're trying to be more
lenient kind of thing.
I don't have lenient. I mean, that's the outcome, I guess. I hate to say, but that's not the intent. The intent is more like you have to be responsible. Take it out when
you need it.
There's a purpose for it, not because you want to go on to Snapchat and communicate with your friends constantly. That's not the idea. So that we do confiscate, we do take, we do have those. There's the club again. It's okay. No, they've figured out where they're going. So what I'm trying to say is it's harder now to be that kind of takeaway and hold on to for a week because people just can't even fathom not having a phone for forget about a couple of hours, but a whole week. What? And not that it matters that they can't fathom it. It's
just impossible to think.
Even the parents are more demanding, right? I have to be in contact with my child, and my homework is on here, mister. I have to do my Google Classroom. Like, it's a whole range of things that it's real, right? So we really want people to be responsible. I'm going to make more announcements next week because the headphones are driving me crazy. And that really does bother me because you can't even hear what's going on. That's a problem. But again, when I say these things, especially anyone that's watching or listening, from what I see in our school system or in different parts of the state and country, you guys are more responsible than most. So I don't think it's a
big issue or anything like that.
It's an issue. I mean, as a teacher, I'm sure they'd be very upset with people on their phone that don't want to put it away. But it's manageable here, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, and your classmates watching, you put your phone away. You have a teacher that's done a lot of work to make sure this is a good lesson for you, especially in aviation classes. And no, your academics, I shouldn't say any one subject. It's not the appropriate time. There's a time and place for a phone. And that's how I guess we're trying to treat it in this 2024 year now that we're at, right? Time and place, keep it away otherwise if you don't need it. And that's not just us. When you get to the workforce, they're not going to take your phone from you, right? You got to not have it out. You got to do your work.
So as a principal, right, going forward, looking forward, how do you manage to incorporate? Because obviously, as days progress, especially with AI and like a lot of the computer softwares and everything, how do you progress or plan on progressing towards the future with like incorporating technology into the education itself? Like, just like for example, like more delta math kind of programs. Like how do you
Delta what?
delta math? Like
Oh,
delta.
Delta Math. Yeah, sorry.
So how do you like plan on incorporating like those kind of programs and devices into students' education?
Well, I think something like Delta Math, you see your teachers are definitely on the forefront of that. Um, so depending on the educational software, that was the good outcome of the pandemic. We have a lot of good software that's useful and makes resources that much more available to you. So that's one aspect of where we are today. For me personally, with like something like AI, I don't even know where to begin with that. I do have a lot of thoughts on it, and I do know a lot about it as far as just the news reports.
What do you think about it? Because like it's obviously definitely impacting a lot of kids' education
Yeah.
when it comes to essay writing or
Well,
like
yeah, right. Essay writing and yeah, I know. Researching. It's not going away.
yeah, definitely not.
It's not going away.
I
So
don't
we
think
can't
Sam
fight it.
happen
It's kind of the same idea. Cell phone's not going away, right? Your personal device, whatever you want to call it. They're not going away. So how do we use these things?
to your advantage
Right.
instead of disadvantage.
And I'm not saying this with a lot of knowledge or personal knowledge, but I do, from what I hear, I could foresee even let's use the aviation maintenance again, just as a theoretical, not as someone that's a part of this, where I'm learning from some company or engineers, but the airplane is more computerized, right? And it tells you where the fault is. It tells you the section of
Especially
the aircraft.
Airbus.
Right, but they're all going to do this. And then, okay, so they can the computer can figure out where the problem is. And the more it does that, and the smarter the technology gets, I don't want to say smarter the computer gets, but the more those dots are connected electronically through programs, it'll connect you to the right manual. It'll connect you to the right steps. It'll connect you to the things that you had to research and do yourself, which is happening right now. And that's just going to get more intense. And that's just one aspect of pretty much any job that has computers attached to it. Is computer software is going to do a lot more of the high level conceptual connections and information connection that it processes just a lot faster. So it's going to change the way we work. It's going to change the way we teach, too, as well. Now, what does that mean today in the classroom? That's something we're grappling with, because it's happening fast. And that's why, classrooms, even instruction has changed, where you can't do one thing for 45 minutes even anymore, right? Because the attention spans have changed. Technology is expected in more things. So we are, as a school system, constantly trying to learn new ways or new adaptations to how we do things, and new techniques, and even new software that can maybe help us engage students in the learning process. Like, we have not pushed it whatsoever, which is a long story. We're in the process of starting to do that. We do have some virtual reality headsets that do teach you some of the aviation maintenance stuff, not to replace, not to get rid of practical work, hands-on, you need that, but it can help you through the steps and learn these steps. Like, that's something that could be very useful, and that's becoming more and more prevalent. Like, that's the kind of stuff I can see, more virtual type, which is happening right now. We have more access to it than we had before.
The plane itself, the simulator.
Yeah, right. And that's another example. I could see more things like that. Again, I personally hope not. And I don't see where you ever learn everything virtually. That won't help you, because you're not going to do virtual work when you're older. But it helps you with steps and process and procedures and the learning the concepts. And that's, so to answer what I've done or what we've done as a school, we have made connections with companies that have given us those kind of software and technology. We do have staff across all subject areas that are looking at what things they did like from online that they can continue to use and to learn from going forward. How do we stop AI writing essays? That's a harder one, but I know a lot more programs also do the edit and proofing of whether it's AI or not. We're not, I know, fully there yet as successfully as we'd like, but that's pros and cons, I guess, of where we're at today, if that makes any sense.
I mean, one thing I understood there's definitely pros and cons, like when it comes to AI, right? Personally, because I use it to certain things. when you're doing research, right? Obviously, if you're doing a research paper for, let's say, like it's due in like an hour, you went ahead and decided to procrastinate, right?
Yeah.
There's this one software where you could literally search up the question, and it will give you a summary of the whole. You know how back in the days where you used to search up something in Google, and there's this one text box with the one website with the answer. Instead of that, it
Sorry. I had a Celsius before this.
instead of that, what it does is basically it goes through every single link that could possibly pop out. It gives you the reference to that link, so it's not like, oh, it's not like ChatGPT where it's like it's only this. So it gives you the summary of the articles, so it puts everything in together and gives you that whole summary. So in that case, you could use that to do your research, and you have the reference right there.
Yeah.
So in that case, when you look at it from that perspective, that's definitely something that's good, because you're just saving so much time of that research. And then versus where you're
Which
like,
is real.
which is like realistic, and like, why would you really want to spend time researching something for like 10 hours when you could do it in less than 15 minutes?
Right.
You know,
But it's how you use the research
that is
and
definitely
how
true.
you understand it and how that you make the connections. I know the software now, that's the whole point. It's making more connections for you. But it's not just printed out and here's it. Use that research for what you need to do with your homework, task, research, etc.
There's apparently this funny thing, right? I was talking to my friend in the morning. He said that there's apparently a job where you need to know how to use ChatGPT. So basically, it's a job where you learn how to use ChatGPT, because there's certain techniques, and it's like,
Sure.
it's pretty funny.
I've seen like the language you can use to trigger certain reactions or responses.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, bro. But like, what are some advices you would give to one, yourself 3 years ago, two, to incoming new aviation students, freshmen,
Oh, okay.
and another is to kids who are in the process of gaining their license or just in the school itself?
All right.
All right, let's start from
I got
you 3 years ago.
Well, that's a tough one because you're talking about the height of the pandemic, right? 2020, 2021. Okay, we're coming out of the pandemic, but still the fear, the masks, the vaccine, no vaccine. So, before I, before I answer that, I do want to officially say in this recording, I am amazed and super proud, not surprised, but just so proud of how everyone, yourself included, our teachers and administrators and counselors and everybody got through that pandemic, because every school had to do the impossible, but we literally did, right? You have a live practical work school that went remote.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because 3 years ago we're coming out of fully remote, but it's still not normal, whatever you want to call it.
Especially with aviation.
Yeah, right. And everyone's making up classes, and teachers have to work Saturdays and mornings and summer school. So that is just amazing story that one day that should be a real recording for a podcast or something, that someone should know how everyone here pulled together and got you guys through that finish line of getting your license. I know not everyone got their license, but tons of opportunities were created. Anyway, so what would I say to myself 3 years ago is, we have to all keep the vision and mission in mind, especially myself, because it's hard. It's been hard. I think the hardest part of this past few years as a result of the coronavirus coming to our life on, I never forget March 13th, 2020, being the last regular quote unquote school day, because it all changed that weekend. And I remember that Sunday morning, like, oh, we're going to have school tomorrow. And then a few hours later, nope, we're not going to have school tomorrow. What am I trying to say? That level of work and intensity we all did,
it was different.
And everyone did an amazing job. I'm gonna speak for myself now. I think doing this, some impact of COVID to this day, whether it just be the level of online work that we just got pushed into, whether it be a million initiatives to get everyone back on track, which just gives us more work also. Still doing makeup work for aviation maintenance students.
Yeah, that's definitely one.
We are, no, again, let me speak for myself on this. I'm more tired than I was then. Sometimes I think about it, like all the things I did, and like, I don't, I'm tired. Like, so I'm saying not because I'm tired, because I'm older or lack of energy. It's COVID forced us to do a lot more online, which was nice to be home, I guess. But you didn't stop at 4:30 and then go home and go to the show or do something relaxing. You went home and checked emails, or you were home already, I should say. And you kept doing that stuff, and then you wrote the emails, and you worked on
It was
the
like
follow
constant
up.
work.
Yeah, you made the phone calls to do it. So there was constant work, right? And I think we're still in that phase of feeling tired from it, and not just from it alone, but we're still dealing with the consequences of students not having live school, not learning that responsibility in middle school. Like you see it in the younger students. And again, I love all of our students, but some grades have been impacted more than others by the pandemic closures, which causes I keep saying more work. What I'm trying to say is teaching and education is hard, right? It's a hard career path that anyone that has never done it doesn't know. But then on top of it, when you have systems and procedures and routines in place that you then have to add on top of and do more in addition to, we're human beings doing this. We get tired and cranky and run down also. So that's what I think has been hard in general. And for me, I would say keep focused, keep the vision and mission in mind, and do your best to take care of yourself, because it's not a 1 or 2 year thing. We're gonna feel this for a while, and I think we're hopefully not much longer, but who knows?
Okay.
That's what I
Yeah.
would say to myself.
So the advice you would tell the people who are incoming, the freshmen who are incoming, and the freshmen who are currently in the school because they haven't gotten that much exposure yet to like the upcoming years of more hands-on training with aviation and then more rigorous courses in academics. Like what are your advices on that?
Yeah. So incoming next year, if there are any parents, students watching this in the future, as I tell every ninth grade parent that this comes up with, I truly believe, and this is not earth shattering, it's pretty common sense, but the transition from middle school to high school is hard. The transition to middle school from middle, the transition from middle school to an FAA aviation maintenance technician high school is even harder, right? So the advice I give to incoming students is don't stress yourself too much. I know you're going to be stressed because it's a new place, you make new friends, it's a whole new restart, but you have good people, great teachers, caring community. It'll make sense over the days and weeks that you're a part of especially aviation maintenance classes, but all your classes. Because I think the first few days and weeks are like a shocking thing for any middle schooler in high school, like I said, but again, even more so for an FAA based school. But hang in there, do your best to make friends. Don't go into your phone and sit in the cafeteria by yourself on your phone, because you're not going to make that connection that you make things better for you. But overall, I promise you, each lesson, each day, each task will make things make more sense. And the more it makes sense to you, the more you have fun with it, the more you'll appreciate it. I think I got to tell you that the students lately have been constantly telling me, I love this, I love that. It makes sense and it's fun. Like that's something I hope you feel on day one. And we try to make that a case for all of our students. But if it's not the case, it will make more sense the more you get to know your teachers and your classmates, because you're going to spend a lot of time together. And over the course of your freshman year, by the time you finish freshman year, you get a clear picture of what this is all about. I mean, hopefully a lot more earlier than that,
Yeah.
but yes. Is that
Okay.
fair to say? You were one of those
Yeah,
freshmen?
I mean that's fair. That's pretty much fair to say. I mean my freshman year was in COVID, so like
Oh,
it's a whole
right.
different it's a
Yeah.
whole different world. But
Yeah, I never
moving
felt
on,
that.
yeah. Moving on to the next question, right? Which is about, since you are a person who is acquainted with the workforce, not just the workforce, like you've been out there working with a lot of people, you know, working with a lot of people. What's your advice on the kids who are graduating right now and going into the industry? Because been in the work field, you know how it is, how stressful it could be. Obviously, you're not an AMP
Yeah,
itself, but
I was going to start by saying that.
yeah, you're not an AMP, but you are definitely someone who's been in our shoes, right? And then you transferred over to you got a job as a teacher, and you worked your way up. So, what are your some advice to those who are transitioning from a high school, just learning, listening to a teacher and doing work, to actually putting themselves out there and working?
Yeah, I think what I'll say is universal and not just aviation maintenance technician graduates. And again, you want specific industry related. Where's that from, the hallway?
Yeah, this mic is pretty sensitive. It
Yeah, wow.
picks up every single thing.
Wow. I think if you want like a podcast of specific aviation maintenance technician advice, I just want to say this public service announcement. Definitely talk to Ms. Karamachi, Ms. Sosa, all your aviation maintenance teachers, all of our graduates in the industry, because they can give you the real life, hands on, from the field answer to that question. So I want to make sure that's clear. Now, in general, the basketball game started. Now, in general, and this includes aviation maintenance technician, because I hear this from our partners, and I'm constantly asking this question. We all are. But in general, as you graduate high school, and as you become an adult, and as you go to work, whether it's turning a wrench, whether it's teaching, or whether it's
doing
engineering,
anything,
whatever, doctor, lawyer, whatever, be open to ideas, be open to criticism, be humble, be curious. And I know this for sure in the industry. Don't sit back and just wait for things to happen. Be told what to do. Like, take an active role in the workforce, your job, to show people that, no, you care about this. I want to keep learning. I want to understand how this works, and not just sit back and wait to be told. Be respectful. Come to work on time. When you make a mistake, and you will, we all do, own up to it. Don't hide it. Don't try and make believe it didn't happen. It's you got to just own up to what you've done, and both the good and the bad, right? And learn from those experiences. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you got to be responsible. And responsibility means constantly learning, listening, taking a step back and learning from the people around you first before you jump into things. Doing the research to make sure you can understand it better before you start it. And when there is a mistake, you own up to it, because that's what a responsible person does. A responsible person also is not on their phone the whole time. They're not also finding ways to get around getting the work done. Like, that's the kind of stuff that employers don't want to see, right? They want employees that are conscientious, good character, meaning every company, you can do a 2-second research, put it into ChatGPT, let's see what it says. And they're going to talk about the workplace having a good culture and a good quality of people working together. And that comes, yes, from leadership, and it comes from the institution also, but it comes from the people that are working together also. So you bring a positive mindset, you bring a positive attitude, you get to know your colleagues, you get to know the people you work for, and that's all part of really what they call like the soft skills part of it. It's not necessarily whether you know how to torque wrench or not, use a torque wrench properly or not, but is this person going to be reliable? Is this person going to, yes, do what I ask, but also be prepared to figure it out before I even ask it, or stick around a little longer to learn about this new aspect of the job that we didn't teach you yet? Like, that's all part of things that employers are looking for. And how do they know it? They don't know it when they're sitting across from the table. It's how you present yourself. Did you come in dressed appropriately? Did you come in a happy, positive, respectful way? Do you have examples of things you've done where you've helped communities out, whether it be working in a place that you've added to, or whether you've volunteered somewhere? And I know I'm saying the same thing in different ways, but the idea being good quality character person that can also take criticism, can take responsibility, can take initiative, to learn even when you're not being told to?
The question, right? So we had a podcast with one of the librarians recently, right? Yes, it wasn't our library. It was in our local library,
Oh, cool.
right? So we had a podcast with him. He said that as one of the biggest problems with the modern kids, teenagers, and everything, because he's a youth advocate in the library, he said that we don't know how to communicate, and we
That's a
don't
good
know
point.
how to write. So because you don't know how to communicate, you don't know how to write. Because you don't know how to write, then you can express yourself, right? So, and he also talked about how connections are a lot important because that the place that he's there at that moment is because of his connections. What are your
Yeah.
advice on gaining connections? Because that's something that a lot of people do need. Me personally, I would definitely agree with the unique connections to actually build yourself up. So, what are some advice you would give to people when they're going?
I think you can answer that question because I know you're in Delta mentoring too. Yeah, and I sigh because I don't want to sound like I don't want to speak on behalf of all aviation technician people, but because I'm part of the school and part of this community, that's a constant example. Look at what we're talking about. When you talk to your mentor, he's a graduate.
Yeah.
Most of the people he works with are graduates, so that's that connection is kind of built in. That's a good part.
But just in general, like just in life, like for example, someone who graduated from, let's say, I don't know, Thomas Edison or something, and then they went to the workforce or wherever they want to go. Well, how much do you think that having these connections are important?
they're very important, and they're important in different ways. So there's one aspect of connections when you're starting out because you're unknown, right? You don't have much experience yet. So my advice, I think it's what you're saying too, for someone like yourself, is volunteer, different organizations, whatever is in your community. Look into internships that are available. We forgot to say this, and this goes back to responsibility too. Get a job, get to know people. And why I'm saying that is, yes, you're not maybe at your job at McDonald's is not going to give you connections, but it teaches you how to talk to people and interact with a whole range of different people, because that's really what it comes down to too. It's being comfortable putting yourself out there in an uncomfortable situation. So when you don't know people and you're in a room and you got to wait for the interview time to come up and you got to meet the people that are going to be hiring you, that's uncomfortable because it's unknown. You'd be worried about saying the wrong thing. What are we going to talk about? So the more you interact with a variety of people in the world in general, those things get a little easier. And then the more talkative and more social you are, the more connections you make. But again, you do that in the context of relatable work experiences, relatable community experiences, relatable activities where you make connections to people and you also build a larger network of like-minded people that can help you along the way. So it's finding the right communities that you want to be a part of, like podcasting. I'm sure there's online communities you join and people you're making outreach to in schools that are doing things, and you see something cool online that maybe a school in the Bronx is doing and you reach out to them. Those are one level of connections that can lead to more, because the more you meet people that do things you want to do, the more people they know too that you start to connect with, and then you build that relationship with them, and then it opens more doors in those careers, in those communities that you're trying to get into. Like, that's really what connections are about. It's not like some kind of trick. It's, I want to do that with those people. How do I meet more people like that can open doors for me and help me learn it, understand it, and become part of it? Does that make sense?
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
Hopefully, I didn't bore you with a lot of questions.
No. Hopefully, I didn't bore you with a lot of answers.
Yeah, but that was pretty good intel into Aviation High School and everything like that.
Okay.
And thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for watching Hard to Mic, produced by Mars Studios. Please do like, subscribe, and comment, and do follow us on Instagram. Thank you.